560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. John Stossel is back. Well, he never really left, but he's got some new material that addresses old arguments. You know, sort of nothing new in this world, just the history we don't know and perhaps the arguments we've never heard. He's channeling Gordon Gekko, Greed is Good, in one of his latest offerings. Yeah, actually, greed is good, in a sense.
Corporate America, stop the greed.
Democrats and Republicans criticize corporate greed.
You're trying to squeeze every piece of profit you can out of this country, this company.
They say this corporate greed kills good things.
Family, religion, friendship. These are the three demons you must slay if you wish to succeed in business.
No, says Yaron Brook.
The only way you can make money in business is by providing customers with a value.
Brook heads the Ayn Rand Institute. Rand's popular book suggests self-interest is a good thing.
The biggest problem we have in our culture is this perception, when you pursue your own self-interest, that you are somehow a villain.
The opposite's true, he says. Entrepreneurs are actually heroes because the only way they can make money is
by making the lives of other people better.
We are calling it iPhone.
Governments sometimes build things, but when they do it badly. 17 years after California promised this high-speed rail, no actual train exists. Yet the cost keeps going up.
The cost of California's long-delayed high-speed rail system has skyrocketed once again.
By contrast, in Florida, in much less time, a selfish, privately owned, profit-seeking corporation built trains that carry commuters and tourists without billing taxpayers. The private sector routinely builds things that get cheaper and better. That's why the price of things like cameras, computers, and TVs has dropped, even as quality improved. Why? Why would greedy people looking to make more money end up lowering prices? Because they have to. Unlike government, they have competition. And those greedy competitors want your money too. So they all have to lower prices.
For more on this and some other topics he's covered recently that are relevant, pleased to be joined again by John Stossel, host and creator of Stossel TV, where you find a new video released every Tuesday at johnstossel.com, johnstossel.com for his reports. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It's good to hear my videos on the radio and know that you don't always need the picture to have them make sense.
No, they
figure it out.
The logical thread holds up even without the video. The video enhances it, of course. But boy, I remember when you were doing sort of how sort of turning the tables on this idea of greed and properly characterizing it as self-interest and what the byproducts of self-interest are. Going back to, your days at 2020, did you ever get exhausted having to make the same arguments over and over again to try to penetrate the consciousness of some people?
It's frustrating, and I live in Manhattan, so I have the same arguments with my neighbors and even my wife. And yes, I just wish they would be as sensible as you are, but they're not.
Yeah, well, the great Friedman exchange with Phil Donahue, which I sort of assume people have seen, but I shouldn't assume. I think most people haven't. But where Donahue questions him on this very topic, and who doesn't act in their self-interest? Do you think the Soviet commissar isn't self-interested? And he goes on from there, like politicians and bureaucracies don't act in their self-interest for preservation or expansion of power or more compensation. And frankly, your reprisal of this argument is timely because we're seeing this play out in real time with the Doge fight with the bureaucracy in D.C.
Yes, and I'm so alone among my friends who are just horrified. And I want to say, cut more. It's outrageous that Trump is saying he won't touch the big entitlements, because that's the only way to stop bankruptcy. But it's thrilling to have Musk push these ideas, and sad to see that he's less popular because of it. People just don't get how we're going broke.
Well, the other thing, too, about that is I would think, I mean, some of the polling shows there's still majority support for what Doge is doing, at least theoretically. But you have, of course, the D.C. press corps telling all the sad sack stories of any federal worker who wants to cry on camera. And I'm not for anybody losing their jobs or anything like that. I don't want to be callous. But by the same token, all that people who don't work in government are seeing is what most people have experienced who don't work in government, right?
Yeah, it's not that the people are inferior. People go into government with good ideas and they're eager to help people. But think about it, 10 years later, if you're in the private sector, a million things have changed because they have to change every day to please the customer or to stay in business. But in government, you can't make any changes. And if your neighbor isn't working hard or doesn't even show up or doesn't care, he doesn't get demoted. He gets the same pay raise you do. And he can't be fired. So that demoralizes these agencies. And then to turn a corner in policy sometimes requires an act of Congress. So government can't be efficient. Government, we need a little government, but it doesn't do anything well.
Where do you think the Democratic Party goes from here? Because, clearly they're having protests every day about Doge. They're, singing songs. They're looking like fools, I think. They're singing a loser song. So what happens? Who's their leader? What's next for them?
I hesitate to predict what happens in politics. That's not my expertise. And these demonstrations are small, and I think they turn as many people off as they help the Democrats. But I think once you get the coverage of specific cuts, like Medicare, nobody wants to cut people off Medicare. These are poor people. And that's true, but they're not even talking about cuts. They're talking about slowing the increases to 2% instead of 9% per year. But as that gets discussed, people will turn against this stuff, sadly.
I wanted to tackle another piece that you did, this one that was, I think MAHA compliant, what's on your plate. And I mean, it's not just about the sort of quality of food in terms of the health quotient. It's also the politics of food. I mean, we don't talk a lot about this. These are, new conversations that are happening again that haven't happened in a while in a real way, in a high profile way. And we're talking about, protectionist policies and basically industrial policy where some industries get protected and others don't. And that certainly happens with respect to what lands up on our plate.
Yeah, we shouldn't be giving billions of dollars to cotton farmers and grain producers and rice producers. It's these old subsidies that some deluded politician got passed saying we won't have a reliable food supply if we don't subsidize these things. And they never go away. And
just for a couple of additional examples you give with respect to meat as well, the cattlemen's industry. Everybody has their lobbyists, and there's all this fighting for the special carve-outs, the subsidies, the insider deals, and that's something that could use perhaps some Doge transparency as well.
Yeah, this is the state issue mostly. You're going back to my previous video about the artificial meat, where it's a few states, like in conservative states, where they're saying we ban this stuff, and some people want to try it. This is real meat taken from an animal, put into some kind of growth machine where they grow it artificially, and people who don't want animals killed can eat meat without guilt. And if they want to do it, let them try it. But Florida and Tennessee have banned it. Nebraska and some Michigan plan to ban it. And this is the cattle lobby saying we need this to make sure we have a reliable food supply. But the opposite is true. If there's another source, that makes the food supply more reliable.
Right. And then you get wrapped up in the arguments about or the cover story of safety is this, the one product doesn't have the nutritional value of another product, and that may well be true. But I mean, if you get the government into that business, then you're going to be banning a lot more than just fake meat.
Yes, and we're in response to my saying in the video that the FDA and the USDA has approved it. They say, the commenters say, yeah, you trust the government? And I understand their skepticism, and I often don't trust them, though I do think when it comes to food safety, these are scientific nerds who work very hard to make sure they're doing the right thing, and they're more reluctant to approve things than quick to approve them. But in any case, don't we own our own bodies? Shouldn't it be our choice? If you don't like artificial meat or you think it's unsafe, you don't have to eat it.
Have you ever tried it?
Yeah, I tried it for this video. One of the chicken companies let me try some, and I couldn't tell the difference. Tasted like chicken. I took it on the street. And other people could tell the difference.
Huh.
Oops, sorry, that's my phone system. And they said that the artificial meat, they liked it because it was more tender. But it should be our choice. Politicians shouldn't try to decide everything for us.
As long as we're not eating the cats and dogs. I don't want to upset Kifness. But the other thing, too, is, I mean, this is another thing. The government is always there as the great protector. These private sector industries and specific businesses, what's bad for business? Negatively impacting your customers, including getting them sick or worse. And so, incentives are aligned for businesses to behave in a safe manner as well, because to fraud or injure your customers is really bad for business, it turns out.
And if you look at the studies, it shows that most of the meat safety actions are taken by companies go well beyond what the government requires, because they know if they poison people, they're going to go out of business. So they take extra steps well beyond what the FDA requires. Likewise, planes don't crash, not because of the FAA, but mostly because the companies know that one plane crash kills their business.
John Stossel is the host and creator of Stossel TV. New video every Tuesday. That's available at johnstossel.com. Still doing great work. John Stossel, thanks again for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Who should control the future of artificial intelligence?